As we leave the small intestine, we enter into the large intestine. Sometimes people call it the bowel, the large bowel, large intestine. Okay. Abdominal, blah, 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 found in the abdominal and the pelvic cavities. There are some things here that we don't really see other places. And two of those kind of right out the bat here, the tinea coli and the hostra. Hostra are just these pouches right here. All of these, hostra, 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 yada, yada, yada. Okay. They're just, compartmentalized sacs of the, excuse me, of the large intestine. Get some expansion that can occur in that area. There's actually some hostral movements that can occur in case something gets stuck along the walls of it to help it to move along. But there's something that you only see here within the large intestine. The other thing is the tinea coli, and here you can see it here and going down, coming up right there. It is a band of smooth muscle, okay? And it helps to kind of coordinate activity, our muscular activity of the large intestine. Small intestine does a lot of things involving absorption, does absorption of water, but so does the large intestine. Okay, it absorbs water and electrolytes. Electrolytes are found in water. Um, it's involved with helping to make vitamin K, and involved with a couple other vitamins. Vitamin K is kind of the hallmark vitamin that is made here within the large intestine. But there's a couple things that can be absorbed here as well. It helps to, as we remove the water here, it causes some desiccation, and this is going to help, compact fecal matter. Store it within the rectum there, and ultimately going to get rid of it. As we look at the large intestine, it is made up of 6 parts if you count the rectum. Excuse me. The cecum is the first part. Okay. It's intraperitoneal. I don't know if that's important, to be honest. Since it's the first, it receives the chyme from the ileum of the small intestine. And we have a sphincter type muscle. It's called the ileocecal valve that opens up and allows that content to pass from the ileum of the small intestine into the cecum of the large intestine. We have a lymphoid structure, and that's the vermiform appendix. It's intraperitoneal as well. It harbors some beneficial bacteria. It can help kind of contract if food, for some reason, or chyme, I guess I should say, does get down into the appendix. It can contract a little bit and try to expel. It'll swell up as well and expel it, any content that gets in there as well. But it's more of just a lymphoid structure. After the cecum, we go through different segments of colon: ascending, transverse, descending, a jig jog called the sigmoid colon, and then basically we end up in the rectum. The ascending colon is on the right side. It's retroperitoneal, so it's outside that peritoneal cavity. Only the anterior face has peritoneum on it. We have the transverse colon, which projects horizontally from right to left. It's intraperitoneal. Then we go down the left side of the body, and that's where we find our descending colon. And then literally, we have this part, the most distal portion of the descending colon kind of jig jogs in, and that's the sigmoid colon. Turns inferiorly into the pelvic cavity. So where these are, there's really not much to them, guys. It's intraperitoneal as well. Pretty much everybody has the same length of ascending, transverse, and descending colons. So there is that. If anybody has a change in colon size, it's going to be here in the sigmoid colon. it's actually kind of the only thing that's going to change, which is weird and unique. If you have an issue, it's more times than not, it's going to be the sigmoid colon. But I digress. The last kind of region here, we have the cecum, we have the colon, and then we have the rectum. Retroperitoneal, it's, again, a muscular tube, just like the whole rest of the shooting match that has been. And it is it's just there to hold fecal matter until you are ready to defecate, go poop. From the rectum, we end up in the anus, technically the anal canal, and then the very end of the poop shooter is the anus. It's stratified squamous epithelium. As I imagine you could probably suggest, there is some abrasion that occurs here, so it helps to prevent it or protect it. There are a number of kind of things that are here that allow it to expand. Anal colons, anal sinuses, these are just, there's some receptors there. They secrete mucus. They allow the rectum to expand as as fecal matter gets deposited here as you wait to go to the bathroom. There are two sphincters, okay? There's an internal sphincter and there's an external sphincter. Internal sphincter is involuntary, okay? It is smooth muscle. It is involuntary. So as soon as a fecal matter starts to get in here, there's a pressure, obviously, that gets exerted on the walls. That's going to start acting on that internal anal sphincter. As fecal matter continues to accumulate in here, it's going to relax and open up. And that's going to put more stress and strain on your external anal sphincter, which is voluntary. This is the one that you pinch off when you hold that poop in, when you hold that fecal matter in. This is the one that you learn to control when you learn to go poo-poo, okay? This is the sphincter that you're controlling. You can see there's rectal veins in here. These would be hemorrhoids if for some reason these became swollen and inflamed. So we have, that as well for you. When you look at the histology, oh my gosh, there was so much adaptation there within the small intestine, and there's not as much adaptation really here. Here, the histology is really muted. You don't see a lot of all of the modifications to increase surface area, because that is not what happens here. There's not a whole heck of a lot of absorption occurring here within the large intestine. So as you can kind of see, it's pretty flat. It's simple columnar epithelium. There's a buttload of goblet cells. Again, this is the last part of the colon's involved with absorbing water. So a lot of it gets absorbed in the small intestine. So you're really desiccating, drying this chyme out. So it would make sense that we would have a vast amount of goblet cells to produce mucus, so this chyme material can get pushed through. And there's some intestinal glands. There's some, as you can kind of see here, there's all the goblet cells. I mean, not a whole heck of a lot. 2 layers of smooth muscle. I don't know. I mean, there's some muscle. I mean, there's not a whole heck of a lot when it comes to histology. What is really good, though, is the bacteria that are there. It's these bacteria that do so much. These are normal flora. The bacterial flora, the indigenous microbiota. Man, this stuff does so many fantastic things. It helps with the breakdown of carbs, proteins, lipids within chyme, some of the roughage that you eat that helps to go, plant food, helps to go and feed these bacteria. They help, there's been several studies to suggest that breastfeeding, vaginal births, They help to create a certain population of bacteria down here that are much more adept at handling carbs and whatnot. So help with a number of fantastic things. So it's worth eating properly for that fact. They do produce some of the B vitamins here. They aid. A number of them. Come to nutrition class and we'll talk about it there. And the final part, feces. There's peristalsis. It's not very quick. It's not very fast. I don't really know how much I really want to get into it, to be honest. There's that hostile churning. It helps to keep food or chyme going forward through the system. There's some mass movements as well. It's kind of, initiated by the tinea coli. And this helps. These are some powerful contractions that really, kick in 2 to 3 times a day, usually after a meal. If you have a meal, like for me, I eat, 5 times a day. So my mass movements would be a little bit more than you. If you only ate 1 time a day, it'll be really active during that one time. And, you may not have a whole heck of a lot of mass movements after that. There are a number of reflexes as well. Gastrocolic flexure. I mean, what can I say about these things, guys? Gastrocolic it begins when the stomach expands as it fills up with food, bolus. That happens because I need stuff to be moving forward through the system. That way the stomach can empty properly. That way stuff can be continued to move through the small intestine properly. So it helps to increase the motility of the large intestine so we can pass things through the system. So I guess I would ask that causes mass movement. Defecation reflex, I kind of mentioned it earlier there. This is what's increasing the stimulation of that internal anal sphincter. It increases parasympathetic, I guess I should put. Rest and digest, right? So as the fecal matter accumulates in there, causes distension on that will increase parasympathetic output to further relax, and the sphincter opens. And then again, you clench down. That's going to stimulate the output for you to pinch up your little sphincter for the external anal sphincter, and you can hold it. It involves a Valsalva maneuver. Valsalva maneuver, all that is bear down. Okay, that's the Valsalva maneuver. If you do that and all of a sudden you get a bunch of pain in your low back, you got a disc issue. Some conditions here, I guess they would make a good multiple choice question or matching question, I guess. As any of these conditions, heartburn, what does it affect? It affects the esophagus. Excuse me. Diverticulosis and diverticulitis. On some people, they have outpouches on the surface of their colon, sigmoid, the descending portion. There's a genetic condition potentially. There's some other rhymes or reasons, but they don't 100% know why. Some people have a whole hell of a lot of them, and some people don't. But they can become inflamed and irritated. They're usually done in response to nuts and whatnot. They can cause them. Increasing pressure within there, that can increase the chances of them. If they do become inflamed and irritated, then they can bleed, and you'll notice that in your bowel movements, and that's when your gut will be cramping a lot as well. Constipation, you can't go. Diarrhea, stuff moves too fast. You don't absorb enough water, electrolyte imbalance. Obviously, would affect nutrient health as well. You'd be malabsorption, you'd be malabsorbent because would not be absorbing nutrients properly.